There's a number that decides which version of Canada you actually live in. It decides whether a surprise dental bill ruins your month or just annoys you. It decides whether you check the price of every grocery item or just toss things in the cart. And most people have no idea where they actually land. They assume they're middle class because almost everyone assumes that. In one survey, 78% of Canadians called themselves middle class. That's mathematically impossible. So today I'm going to show you the real numbers for lower, middle, and upper class in Canada right now. And by the end, you'll know exactly where you stand. Let's start with the most honest figure in the entire country. According to Statistics Canada, the median after-tax income for all families and individuals combined was $75,500 in 2024. Social media makes everyone look rich. The trips, the cars, the fancy new kitchens. But the median doesn't lie. It shows that half of all Canadians live below that line every single day. So if you're close to it, you are not behind. You are normal. And normal is a much more crowded place than the internet wants you to think. Now let's break it into the three classes. When economists talk about middle class, they usually mean households earning between roughly $57,000 and $115,000 a year. The lower income range sits below that, generally under $57,000 for a household, and this is where life gets genuinely tense. At this level, a single broken furnace or one missed shift can spiral into real trouble. It's not about being irresponsible, it's that there's simply no cushion. Nearly 11% of Canadians, about 4.5 million people, lived below the official poverty line in 2024. But here's the part nobody tells you. Class in Canada isn't just about the number on your paycheck. It's about the gap between what comes in and what goes out. Someone earning $130,000 can be financially lower class in every way that matters because they spend $135,000. And someone earning $60,000 can sleep perfectly at night because they owe nothing and they own their time. Income tells you the score at halftime. Behavior decides who wins the game. And this is exactly where debt rewrites the whole picture. Canadians now carry one of the highest household debt loads in the developed world. As of late 2025, the average household owed roughly $177 for every $100 of disposable income. That means two identical families on the same street, both earning $90,000, can be living in completely different financial realities. Your class isn't just what you earn, it's what you keep after the lenders take their cut, and for millions of Canadians, that cut is far bigger than they ever admit out loud. And debt is quiet. It doesn't show up in the driveway or the vacation photos. It shows up at 2 in the morning when you can't sleep and the numbers keep running in your head. A family can look rich from the outside and still be one bad month away from the edge. One rate hike, one lost job. Meanwhile, a family with no payments and a paid-off car actually has more freedom. That freedom never goes viral, but it's the real sign of which class you belong to. Let's talk about the middle class. A household pulling in between $57,000 and $115,000 technically sits in the middle class, but it doesn't feel like the comfortable middle your parents knew. In 2024, roughly 24% of Canadians lived in a household that reported some form of food insecurity. So if you're middle class and still feel stretched thin, you are not failing. You're experiencing math. Think about what that number really means. Nearly 1 in 4 people worried about putting food on the table, and many of them have jobs. They show up to work, pay their bills, and still come up short at the store. That's not a personal failure. That's a sign of how much the ground has shifted under the middle class. The cost of living climbed faster than the middle class wage, and the middle has been carrying that weight for years. Nothing exposes that squeeze like housing. To afford an average priced home in Canada today, a household needs an income well above the national median, and in the biggest cities, the gap is brutal. In Toronto, buying a typical home can demand a household income north of $200,000. So you can sit comfortably in the middle class by income and still be locked out of the single biggest wealth builder most Canadians ever access. That's the cruel twist of the modern middle. You earn enough to live, but not always enough to own, and ownership is exactly where long-term wealth compounds. And that gap shapes the next generation too. People who own a home can pass it down. People who rent forever pass down nothing but the same struggle. This is how class hardens from one generation to the next. The starting line keeps moving, and the kids who start behind have to run twice as hard just to catch up. There's also a geography problem nobody warns you about. Where you live can completely change what your income means. In Alberta, the median after tax income was about $85,300 in 2024, the highest of any province. In Ontario, it was around $79,500. Meanwhile, families in the Atlantic provinces sat at the bottom of the range. So a $90,000 income makes you comfortable in one province and barely afloat in another. This is why comparing yourself to someone in another city is a trap. You're not even playing the same game. Now here's the number you've been waiting for: the upper class. To crack the top echelon of Canadian earners, the bar is probably lower than you think, but it's still out of reach for almost everyone. To be in the top 1% of individual income earners, you needed to earn at least $293,800 in a single year, according to Statistics Canada. That's the entry ticket to the 1%, and the higher you climb, the steeper it gets. Here's a better way to think about that upper class number, because chasing $294,000 in salary is the slow lane, and almost nobody gets there on wages alone. Look closely at how wealthy Canadians actually built it, and a clear pattern shows up. Their money comes from market income, investments, ownership, assets that earn while they sleep. A salary stops the moment you stop working. An asset keeps paying you whether you're at the office or asleep in bed. The wealthy don't just earn more, they own more, and what they own keeps earning for them around the clock. The goal isn't only a bigger paycheck, it's building things that pay you back without your time attached to them. Now let's make this practical. If you're in the lower range right now, your single most powerful move is to build 1 month of breathing room. That buffer changes how you sleep, how you negotiate, how you live. If you're solidly middle class and feeling the squeeze, your move is different. You need to stop letting every raise get eaten by lifestyle. The middle class trap is simple. You earn more, you spend more, and you stay exactly where you started. The escape is to widen the gap between what you earn and what you spend, then send that gap to work in investments. And Canada gives you the tools to do it for almost nothing. The TFSA gives you $7,000 of new room in 2026. Every dollar that grows inside it is yours, with no tax, for life. The RRSP cuts the tax you pay today while your money grows for later. These accounts are how regular earners build big results over time. The wealthy didn't get a secret account you can't open. They just used the same tools sooner. They filled them month after month and let the years do the work. And if you're already in the upper range, the danger is comfort. High income with no ownership is a paycheck that can vanish in a single layoff. Convert income into assets before life forces your hand. So now you know the real numbers. Under 57,000 puts you in the lower range. Between 57,000 and 115,000 is the broad middle, and cracking 294,000 puts you in the rarest air in the country. If this gave you even a little more clarity about where you stand and where you're headed, do me a favor and hit the like button. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you there.